everyone. Say hi. Hello. Hi, Pat. Oh, you're not Patty. Patty's voice. Hi. So, what you have to do is, I believe you have to go live, and then I invite you. I think is how it works. I believe. I haven't really done this super. What does this pop up? Viewers may join you. Oh, okay. Say hi, Mama. What's up, Drenham? Hi. Hello. Oh. Thanks. Thanks. Boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 boom. So how do I do this again? Oh wait, if I hit invite to you, I don't know if it works that way. Wait, how do I do?
I think you did it.
How do I do video?
I don't know. It's new to me too. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Just can't see me.
Hold on, I think if you back out of this and if you go like live on your page, I invite you that way and then you'll actually show up.
Connect audio. Oh wait, what about this? How about that? Hold on. I think I'm getting it.
How do I make you bigger?
Make me bigger?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. What is this?
You're the TikTok expert, so I don't know. I have not done a TikTok live.
Oh, there we go.
Well, now I'm huge.
I'm little now. I'm bad at this too. I'm supposed to be good at this, but
we can add all kinds of people. It looks like there's 5 other boxes we can add people to.
Apparently.
Awesome. Oh, somebody says you can make her live split. A live split with you and her.
How do I do that?
I don't know. I love cats is telling you they can do a. You guys are gonna have to walk us through this because neither one of us have a clue what we're doing here with this live.
Oh, Jesus.
Hello, Florida.
Well, I mean, this is about your mom anyway, so it might as well make you the focus here.
All right.
So they know. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to learn how to do this together. Thank you guys all so much for being willing to join. You don't do these, right, Mike? You don't do these lives, do you?
I usually go live by myself, typically. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how to like move things around, but at any rate, we can just do it this way. I've been trying to press buttons, but nothing is working.
I'm just surprised I got on there because I didn't see anything that said accept or hit. So we're good. We're good.
Okay. So what? Oh, okay. I thought that was me talking for a second. Okay. So I guess we can just get started with this since we're doing this for like 30 minutes or so. Hey, so how old were you when this happened with your mom?
Just for background for people who haven't met me yet, my name is Suzanne Timms, and I am the daughter of Patricia Otto, who has been missing since 1976. And I was actually not even 3 years old. I was getting ready to turn 3, and my sister Natalie was 5 years old at the time. So this happened a long time ago.
So do you like remember much about your mom? Like,
that is a great question. And people ask that all the time. They say, tell me about your mother. Well, right. I could tell you what I was told about my mother, and that is what I grew up with. What I was told was she didn't want to be my mother anymore, and she abandoned my sister and I. So I actually grew up thinking I had this horrible mother who walked out on my poor father who was, just absolutely heartbroken. And my sister and I grew up believing that Patty could walk back into our lives at any minute. And my sister promised that every event that we would have, she would say, watch, mom's going to show up. You watch, she's going to be here. You watch, mom's going to be here. And all that time, I'm hating this woman who chose not to show up for us, right? You think, oh, I'm graduating. My mom's going to be there. I didn't even go to my own graduation, my high school graduation, because I knew she wasn't going to be there. Why am I going to waste my time?
Right.
So I find out through my investigation that that's not the person my mother was. That's has nothing to do with her personality of the woman who would have probably given her life to protect me. But we don't find that out until my sister is now deceased. She died in an accident in 2006. And I'm now almost a 50-year-old woman finding out that my mother loved being a mother. It was her number one goal in life. At 18, she married my 34-year-old father. She thought all she wanted was a family, and my father offered that financial stability that an 18-year-old could not, right? 34-year-old man with his own business, he's financially secure, and he's very generous. So he was very generous with gifts, showered her with gifts, gave her a Thunderbird car, nice clothes. He groomed her.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So when did you really find out that this was an actual missing persons thing?
So if people aren't familiar with my mother's case, I can give you like the quick rundown, but in June of 2021, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I find a Jane Doe poster. And if you guys haven't seen the Finley Creek Jane Doe, you could just look at my face. It's literally my face. And I was like, wait, why would somebody put me in this unidentified poster? And then I click on it and I start reading the details and I'm like, well, it's not me. It's 5'1", 5'3", and I'm 5'6". So I'm much taller than this woman. Blonde, Caucasian, young. And then it said wearing red pants and a white blouse. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. My mother was wearing red pants and a white blouse in 1976 when she disappeared. And now forensic art has advanced to the point where they could take a skull and create that skull into a face, and they drew my face. And so I'm like, oh, wow, wait a minute. If this is my mom, that would mean she disappeared the night that she disappeared was August 31st of 1976. That would mean she died the night she disappeared. That would mean she didn't leave me. That would mean what I saw that night, which what I saw was I heard them fighting. I heard loud noises. I snuck back upstairs and I saw them hit each other, like dad hitting her, mom hitting him, and then dad grabbing her by the neck and pushing her up against the wall and then dragging her out of my sight. And granted, I was only 3, right? So explaining that as a 3-year-old, I used very different words. I said, mommy hit daddy, daddy hit mommy, and daddy dragged her out. I told people that, and that's documented in a police report that I told people that. So I'm not just saying, oh yeah, I said that 45 years ago. It is documented in the police report. And now I have this woman who was found 2 years after my mother disappeared, whose face looks like mine, who the cause of death appears to be strangulation, and she was never identified.
And that's the Jane Doe from where again?
That's in Union County, Oregon. So it's about 3 hours away from our house in Lewiston, Idaho. Not Lewiston, Maine, Lewiston, Idaho. So it's like Idaho and Washington and Oregon are kind of border each other there. So he has somehow gotten her body, he meaning my father, because I'm assuming my father didn't strangle her that night and then hand her off to somebody else. I'm assuming my father is responsible. Somehow got her all the way over to Oregon. In 1978, these Oregon hunters are out and they stumble upon this shallow grave because runoff had come through and the snow melts off and her head is exposed. So these hunters find this body and they notify the police and they make a report of who these hunters are, you know, and they're not involved in this. They're just discovering the body, right? So as I read about this Jane Doe and I'm trying to figure out where she was found, when she was found, I recognize the name of one of those hunters in 1978. And I'm like, this cannot be real because the hunter is an old guy from Milton Freewater, which is a tiny town across the border from me. And that is my husband's grandfather. Whoa. So I'm like, whoa, wait. There's no way that my husband's grandfather found this body in 1978. I leave Idaho, move to Walla Walla, Washington, and I marry the grandson of the hunter. There's no way, right?
Whoa, that's insane.
No, so I'm like, I asked my husband, did your grandpa find a body in 19? And he said, no. Don't you think we would have talked about that? No. He said, no. And I'm like, look at this picture and look at the newspaper article. And I show him and he's like, Milton Freewater has like 5,000 people. There's no way there's 2 guys with my grandpa's name, right? But grandpa died in 2009. So I'm like, I'm going to call your dad. I'm going to call your dad and see if my father-in-law knows anything about this event in 1978. And my father-in-law is like, how do you know about this? I never told you about this. And I'm like, what do you know about it? And he said, well, when you're a little kid and you come upon human remains, it's not something you forget. And then I'm like, no, wait. You telling me my father-in-law, as a child, is out hunting with his dad and finds a body, and I'm saying that's my mom? I sound nuts, don't I?
No, I mean, that's a crazy coincidence, but
I sound nuts. So my father-in-law is like, I don't want to hear anything more. Don't tell me any more details. He says, I want to drive to the location because we were there hunting for like a week. I know right where it's at. It's not something that you forget. And I'm going to drive to the spot and I'm going to show you where the body was found at. And then you tell me what that report says. So he drives out there, and you're talking 18 miles out in a forest road. This is not a well-traveled, like, on Main Street, take a right.
yeah,
He's out on a forest road, a very desolate area. He goes to the spot. He says, this is where I remember it being. Obviously, all this is overgrown, and it looks really different. It was also funny because he said, there used to be ferns all over on the ground here. Okay, remember the ferns. He documents it with GPS, and he sends his location to the Finley Creek Task Force team and says, that's where I found the body when I was a kid. What does your report say? He is more on point than what the Oregon State Police believe. Oregon State Police have it just off the road, and Rob actually has it exactly where it's documented with the photos across the creek, over a creek bed, and there's a fallen tree that was down 45 years ago, and he's literally standing where you can see a fallen tree, a big fallen tree, and a huge amount of overgrowth, but there's no ferns. And the reason there's no ferns is because the forest has grown up so high that it kills out the undergrowth. Well, we're looking back into my father's documents, and it's really interesting that when the police did a walkthrough looking for my mom's body, they found ferns on the basement floor. And ferns don't grow in that area of Lewiston. And my dad said that was from the path going down to the playground. This is a very sunny hillside. There are no ferns growing on that hillside. So it's very interesting that that foliage that was found on the floor and documented is exactly the thing that my father-in-law notes. Wow, this place used to be covered in ferns. And you just happen to find ferns on my dad's floor in Lewiston after my mom disappears.
And that's in the home you lived in?
In the home we lived in.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so why did they ever like never just like properly investigate this, or like?
Yeah, so what happened? That's a good question. Like, how would they not figure this out? Oregon and Idaho, they're 2 hours apart. How did they not realize that we're missing a 24-year-old female wearing red pants and a white blouse? We just found one. So what happened is, a month before this body was found, another Jane Doe was found, and that's in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. So they found a body buried in Portland, Oregon, and that had been already sent out via an all points bulletin to all areas. And the Lewiston Police Department, which is where my mother's case is, they get this notice saying, hey, there was a young woman buried in Portland, Oregon. That's about 6 hours away. And the detective said, that could be her. I mean, it's a long ways, but it could be my mom. So they go to get dental records from my mom, and they're in the dentist office. He's documenting that he's getting the dental x-ray, and he gets a call from a family member that says, do you know that body they found in Oregon is wearing red pants and a white blouse? And the detective's like, holy hell, are you serious? They never said anything about her clothes. He's like, I'm getting the x-rays right now. I'm going to fly over there and go look at the clothes. So this happens on September 1st of 1978. He believes that he's going to visit the Portland Jane Doe case when he's flying over there because that's what he's working on. But what really happened is Finley Creek Jane Doe was discovered August 27th. So this is days apart that these mistakes happen. Just days apart that it's another body's found. And here he's going to talk about the Portland body, and they're like, yeah, here's this red pants and a white blouse. They bring my grandparents to the crime lab to show them the red pants and the white blouse, and they're so sure it's her. It's got to be her, same clothes. He hands them the x-ray, and 3 or 4 days later, he gets a report back saying that x-ray doesn't match the body. So it was like, wow, we thought for sure it was her. How did the x-ray not match the body? What's really interesting is what he describes in the reason that it can't be the body. He describes the Portland Jane Doe's teeth. He describes everything about the Portland Jane Doe's teeth. And he actually writes the exact same report on both Jane Doe's dental reports. He puts the same 12 fillings on both Jane Doe's. He has those two cases mixed up.
So they flipped them, or
they flipped them, have them combined together. I mean, it's crazy because this lady that was buried had 12 fillings. Do you have fillings, Mike? That's kind of personal, but do you have fillings? I've never had one. I have never had one. So to say that Oregon found 2 bodies within 30 days and they had the exact same 12 fillings, that's absurd. It is absurd.
Yeah. You wouldn't ever see that ever.
No, exact same 12 teeth. And I feel so bad because I'm not watching the chat, you guys. I'm sorry. And I talk really fast, but I hope, Mike, you'll pull up any questions. Yes, 12 fillings.
I've been watching you talk. I'm just like,
I feel bad because I do. Here's the thing. You guys have brought up such great questions that viewers and people have brought up. We've gotten farther on this case with just sleuths like you than what we've ever gotten in 45 years. So essentially, they documented the wrong Doe dentals. Okay, so they said it's not her. 1990 rolls around. That's only 12 years after they found the body. And for some reason, Oregon says, hey, we don't know who this Jane Doe is. We don't know how she ended up in our forest, but we're not missing anybody. Let's just close this case and destroy the evidence. And they did. So they sent her remains, which were potentially pregnant remains because they said there was a fetus in the grave. They sent her remains from Oregon to the closest crematorium. This is another weird coincidence. The remains go from Oregon to Walla Walla, Washington in 1990.
Why?
Because that's the closest crematorium. So they crossed state lines again. So she literally, if this is my mom, she was murdered in Idaho, was buried in Oregon, sent to Washington for cremation. And on the order for cremation, they have a lot of incorrect details. They say that this body was found in Hot Lake, Oregon. That's not correct. There was never a body in Hot Lake, Oregon. This is Union County, Oregon. They say that it was somewhere around October 16th. That's not correct. It was August 27th. It has the right case number and it has the right detective, but it has incorrect details. So if Walla Walla cremated her and then called back over to Hot Lake and said, hey, we got your cremains, more than likely Hot Lake said, I don't have a body, so I'm not sure who that was. I'm sure they'll be calling for it, because whoever sent it out needs to get it back for final disposition.
Are they like really that inept, or is this something that feels more deliberate?
I mean, they can't answer for it now, Mike. They have no explanation. All they know is that in 1990, she never came back, and all we can see is the paper trail has incorrect data. And if they called Hot Lake would say, I don't have a body. We didn't send anybody out. So, whoever has sent the body out will reach out and say, I need that Jane Doe. They're required by law to do a death certificate, final disposition, all that. This is a homicide case.
Yeah.
That never happened. So they closed the case and they ordered the evidence, like the red pants and the white blouse, to be destroyed. So they said, close this case, destroy the evidence, but there's no paper trail showing any of this evidence was destroyed. Just the order to destroy it, but nothing from the crime lab saying pants went in on this day, pants were photographed, pants went out, nothing like that.
But they don't have them.
No.
No.
They don't have them. What I provided to them is the report showing that the detective from Idaho was in their lab viewing those clothes, handing the x-ray. All that's documented, so wonderfully documented. And none of that is documented in Oregon's file. They have documented none of this. My mom's name doesn't exist anywhere in their file for the Finley Creek Jane Doe, other than that Dr. Vance says it's not her because they say it's not her, but there's nothing.
So Finley Creek Jane Doe is the one that was cremated?
Yes.
The one that would be potentially be your mom?
Yes.
But you do have, don't you have the image of the skull?
That's from autopsy photos.
Right, and so you've been able to overlay her face over that.
Yes, and that's how they did the forensic image. They took the autopsy photos, which are skeletal only, and they used those photos to, recreate a face, which is not done using tissue depth markers. So the creation has these huge cartoon-like eyeballs, if you've seen it. But I mean, The lineup of the face is exactly, Mom and I look alike. Essentially,
Yeah,
what
I've
I'm
seen
saying.
it,
People
like,
didn't get that.
I've seen them do that on Forensic Files a couple of times where they have those experts overlay a person's actual image over a skull, and it always looks kind of silly because you have like those giant holes, but everyone's face is also different and unique in the shape and everything, and so it's not always going to line up unless it is that person for the most part. And I've seen that image of the Finley Creek with, you know, your mom's face, and it lines up like perfectly. And so, is your dad still alive?
No, so that's another interesting thing. 2 months after my mom disappeared, my dad was at the bar whining about the investigation because they were hounding him about where my mom's at. Oh, they're on me all the time. It's just ridiculous. And he said the bartender had previously told him, hey, if you ever want to get rid of someone, I know someone.
Oh my God.
So my dad's like, I want to get rid of the captain of the police force. This guy is on me and he's hounding me and he's a dick. I don't like him. And the guy's like, are you serious? Absolutely. My dad has money. He says, set it up. I'll be here tomorrow. And so the bartender calls the Lewiston police and's like, dude, everybody knows that Ralph killed his wife. And now he's in here trying to get a hitman to kill the captain of the police department. What do you want me to do? And the police department's like, we'll send you a hitman. We'll send a hitman. We'll send somebody in, and this guy's going to pretend to be a hitman. And he does. And actually, he writes a book, and it's hilarious because it's this cop for the first time pretending to be a hitman. And he talks about how he doesn't know what he's supposed to wear. He doesn't know if he looks too flashy. Is he supposed to wear dark glass? It's funny because you're reading this cop like going in undercover. He wears a wire. Yeah, the police say we got you. He wears the wire and goes in. And my dad, not only does my dad pay for the hit of Captain Ayler, he arranges 2 other hits. And because it's a cop and he knows you can't convolute cases, he's like trying to, whoa, slow your roll. We only got to do 1 hit at a time because we have to keep these cases straight. Wow. We just want to make sure that we get the hit on Captain Ayler, that you pay for it. We arrange how it's going to be done. And my dad had an alibi. So he did all that, had the alibi. We were supposed to go to Disneyland while this hit's being done. So my dad looks like, you know, an angel. He's out of town. He had nothing to do with Ayler getting killed. He tells him he can't use a 357 because that's the gun that he has. So don't use that gun. And he's very well planned out. So dad gets arrested today, on this day today, which is really funny because we've canceled this live and we reached today on this day. Yeah. Back in 1976, my father was arrested. And I remember this day because this is my sister's 5th birthday. Today, my sister had turned 5 in 1976 and they came and arrested dad. And now remember, we don't have a mom and now they just arrested my dad. So my dad goes to prison. He's sentenced to 10 years for trying to kill this cop. But he also has money. My dad has money, so he fights it. He fights it and he takes it all the way to the Supreme Court and he wins.
What?
He wins because essentially the police entrapped him. They set it up and they entrapped him. Now you can do it thanks to my dad. They now have laws.
They do it all the time now. Like it happens all the time.
Yes.
So back then, even because they recorded him, right? And so he's on audio.
The whole thing is on audio. It's hellacious.
But back then that's considered entrapment. Yeah.
Back then there had not been rules set aside saying that the police could intentionally entrap you. So what they should have charged him with is attempted, oh wait, somebody could probably help me with this. It's not attempted murder. They charged him with attempted murder. Oh, solicitation of murder. Yeah. They should have charged him with solicitation of murder because essentially he solicited murder, but he never really attempted because the cop was never going to kill the other cop.
Oh, so they really messed that up. Okay.
Yeah, they messed that up. So dad's in prison when the Finley Creek Jane Doe body is found, and the detective goes back to prison to talk to dad and say, yeah, we found this body and we thought it was her. And he wants to know, like, I'm going to give you one last chance to tell me what you did to her. And my dad, initially, of course, he just says, no, I didn't do it. No, I did not do it. And the interview is like 40 pages long. And eventually he says, what would you have done if you did kill her? Let's say, hypothetically, you did kill her. What would you do?
The old O.J. Simpson thing, yeah.
Is that, I don't know what it was. I don't know cop tricks. But my dad says, well, I would have put her in the river, but you guys dredge that all the time, so you would have found her. So he would have done that. Then he said, I could have put her down in the Dorshak Dam because that thing's so deep. You could put cars down in there and it'll go on the silt and you'll never find a body. And then he said, I told people that I put her in a gunny sack and threw her in front of a train. You know, he said all these horrible things. And I'm reading that and I think, if you asked me how I would get rid of my husband's body right now, I have never thought about how I would get rid of my husband's body. I'm not going to be like, oh, I would put him in the microwave. I mean, I don't
have options set aside.
Yes, I don't have A, B, and C options set aside. So to me, that seemed odd that he said that. And then he says another incriminating thing. He says he doesn't want to take the medicine at the prison anymore because they're making him take pills because they think he's crazy. But he's like, they know he's not crazy. Everybody knows he's here because he killed his wife.
Right.
He says, everybody knows I'm here because I killed my wife. And I'm like, wait, how did the detective not catch that at the time that he literally just said, everyone knows I'm here because I killed my wife. It's not because I tried to kill a cop. It's because I killed my wife. And then he stumbles over and says, well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
That wasn't like a recorded thing he said, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is recorded that he said that?
This is this is a transcribed report where he just flat out says that.
Wow. That's the ultimate Freudian slip.
Yeah, exactly. And he did other things. Actually, the investigators just did a podcast, and I've told my story 100 times, I swear, and nobody comes back to me like, did you catch this? But Todd McComas came back, and he did a thorough investigation, and he thought it was interesting that in that interview, the detective asks my dad, would Patty ever leave those girls? And my dad says, no, she was a good mother and she loved them. But what he said is she was a good mother.
Okay, past tense, yeah.
She was a good mother and she would never leave them, but she was. And I'm like, that's so interesting. And then he also caught that when my dad was hallucinating because he was a very heavy drinker. And if you stop drinking alcohol, you can go through withdrawals and have DTs. He was drinking and he called his friend. And this is 2 months after she disappeared. He called his friend and said, you need to get my lawyer over here because they found Patty's body in the yard and the cops are all here. And the friend's like, oh my God, are you serious? They found Patty. And he said, yeah, she came after me with a gun and I stabbed her in the stomach. And they're like, okay, we're sending your attorney, you know, we're sending people over and are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm fine. There's a lot of cops here. And yeah, you know, like I'm going to go down for this, whatever. That they show up, the family shows up and the attorney shows up and my dad's climbing around on the ground, hallucinating. There's nobody there. He's just seeing my mom coming out of the grave and he says he stabbed her in the stomach. Well, I had never put two and two together that later when he goes in to talk to a detective, he's trying to get his guns back because he had turned his guns in because he was suicidal. And he said, I need my guns back. Why do you need them? He says, because I need to go kill Randy. This is the guy that my mom had an affair with. And he's like, oh. You can't just go around killing people because you think they had an affair with your wife. And he's like, I need my gun. And what are you going to do with it? And he's like, I'm going to go kill him. He wants to go shoot this guy. And he says he needs his gun because he's going to shoot Patty in the gut and Randy in the brisket. And I got caught up on that statement because I didn't know what a brisket was. I'm like, where's he shooting him? What's a brisket? What does that mean? I don't know. But again, he says he wants to shoot Patty in the gut. Why would you shoot someone in the gut? And why would you stab someone in the gut?
To kill them.
Kill them?
To also make them, and also is very painful.
What if she's pregnant?
Oh, shit, you're right. That's right.
What if she's pregnant? None of us knew she was pregnant. There was no disclosed pregnancy. There was nothing about that. But my dad is so dead set on killing this young man named Randy. Is it that mom came home and said, I'm 4 months pregnant. It could be Randy's baby. And he was so dead set. He's going to stab her in the gut. He's going to shoot her in the gut. He's going to do. And I don't think in the gut would be something I would think is going to kill someone. I would have thought like my gut instinct would be like the head or the chest or something, right? Yes. Yeah. Why does he want to stab her in the gut? Well, it could be maybe she disclosed her pregnancy and maybe, you know, Randy was the father of this child that my father just could not handle this. And that's why he wanted both of them dead. And he'd already taken care of my mother. Finley Creek was found with
a fetus,
A
right?
fetus.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
fetus. Hmm.
Okay. So I mean, that all adds up then. I mean, so why on earth did he not ever get charged with anything with regards to your mom?
Well, for one thing, Oregon destroyed the body and
Oh, the
cremated
body,
all.
yeah,
I
the
mean,
body.
there's no evidence. Like, there's no crime that was ever committed because Oregon closed the case. But then, dad dies before she's actually cremated. Dad gets out of prison when the Supreme Court overturns his conviction, and he gets out. And I go home to the same house where I watched my mother die. My sister and I go into the home, and we live with my father. He's not well. He is obviously not well, and he struggled quite a bit. He died 2 years later of a cardiac arrest. He was only 48 years old, and he dies in police custody on a theft charge. So dad died in 1983. So there's nobody to convict. So I think that once my father died, nobody ever looked at my mother's missing person case again. They're like, everyone knows he killed her. Everyone knows he's responsible, and we're not going to prosecute a dead man. So my mom's case has just been closed in the sense that no one's looked at it, but we have had no closure. My
Right.
family has had no closure. Yeah.
And so, and that unfortunately happens so often where like their suspect dies and they're like, oh well, he's gone, can't do anything about it now. But they don't think about the people that are still here, like you, for example, and your family, about like, hey, well, what about us? Like, we can't bury my mom. Now we also can't seek justice for her. They can still close cases after the person is dead. They still do it.
100%. And
But it's
that's,
just a matter of like I guess without the body, that's like the hardest part.
yeah,
Of like,
if they had like, if maybe they had taken an x-ray and we could compare x-ray to x-ray, then we could say case closed, that's her. But we could not ever then say my father did it because there's no physical evidence. It's just my witness statement as a 3-year-old saying, oh, I saw daddy do it. But what we've been asking for and why I'm on TikTok and why I'm out there telling the story is that I believe that science is going to advance and that there's something out there that's not DNA, like facial superimposition. We have the pictures of her teeth and I have my mom's x-ray. But to Oregon, they say that's not apples to apples. That's an x-ray to a photo and you can't do it. And if you guys have seen, I can overlay the x-ray to her photos. It's the exact same teeth.
so does the skull? You can see the teeth, right?
Yes.
So aren't there dental experts that are out there that can like? Do you have her dental records or no?
I have her x-ray.
Of her, not of. So you have that, and you have
Pictures of the body.
So they can't line, but obviously you've lined them up, but like you don't have like dental experts that can be like.
Yes, that's what we need. So what we want is forensic odontologists who will say, I can create a 3D model. I can make this work to where it's a case that Oregon can't refute. Because answer this, how is Oregon ever going to admit that this is her when they know they will be held responsible for closing an unsolved homicide, for failing to identify her in the first place because she was presented in 1978? Oregon's never going to admit, oh, my bad. Right?
Well, regardless, they destroyed a body without having an answer to why that body was there. Regardless of if it was your mom or not your mom, that's still a body they found buried. That's clearly a homicide.
A pregnant homicide. Pregnant woman murdered.
And they just destroyed the body regardless. That's bad no matter what. Like, they can't just close it. That's insane.
That is another reason why we're out here saying, is there somebody who can give legal advice? Because I have tried to get legal advice, and what I get told by attorneys is this is an unprecedented case. Never has there been a case where the child's coming forward saying that was my mom, and the state says, I don't know who it was, so I threw them away. Never has this happened. So is there somebody that could give legal advice to say, do I sue on behalf of the Jane Doe and say, okay, so it's the Jane Doe that I'm suing for, who I believe was my mother, and you took away her chance of justice? I may never be able to prove it's my mom. Somebody just asked about the ashes. Yes, there's ashes. Yes, the body was sent here to Walla Walla, where I happen to live, and there's a box of ashes. We've tried to get DNA off of it, but the cremation process destroys all the DNA.
And that's another thing is maybe one day science could advance enough to like say, hey, maybe we could take something from ashes.
Yes.
I know now they can't, but I guess if they're still actually preserved, there is possibly that chance that science evolves to the point where they can do that.
We're hoping
I
to.
hope.
And then I also thought my other wild idea was if the DNA, if she like decayed in that forest and the forest has continued to grow, is her DNA in the trees? Is science going to advance to where they would say her DNA decayed in this forest and she is now in the trees? How could her DNA be in the trees unless that was her body in that grave?
Right.
So that's why we're out here. We're saying, I need an expert. I need somebody who can give me hope, because if you have any idea what it's like to lose a mother, lose a father, lose my sister, and then lose my child and have to be dealing with this, that I am trying to deal with my mother's unsolved homicide, it's a lot.
And technically, I would say that you technically have lost your mom twice, because one, you thought she abandoned you for God knows how long. And then you find out your dad pretty much allegedly killed her. And so you had to do this twice. So you had to live with two separate types of pain. And no one should ever have to go through even one of those. And so I feel like they owe you. They owe you a lot. I am still blown away that it was your father-in-law and grandfather who found that body.
I can't help but just feel like my mom is putting all this together and orchestrating it, because then I explained that the body was sent to Walla Walla in 1990. She's cremated in 1990. I'm a 16-year-old girl in 1990. 16? I don't know, somewhere in there. I left Idaho in 1999, and I got a job in Walla Walla, Washington, of all places. I moved to where her cremains were sent, and I've been living here. Marry the grandson of the hunter who found her body, and I'm like, you can't tell me that my mom's not being like, I'm trying to hand this damn thing to you.
I was going to say, that sounds like someone is trying to... Someone is trying to send you a message here.
It is insane. And one of your viewers asked, is there hair in the forest? And I think the same thing. She had a whole head of hair like mine, and the head, when it was found, was completely hairless. She had completely decayed. But birds come and take all the hair. Scavengers came and take all this. Where is that? Is it in birds' nests? There's been people saying, can you pull out birds' nests? I mean, we just know that there's other methods to identify her. We've just got to get creative. There is no DNA.
Or even in that shallow grave she was in. I mean, there could be, I know it's been a long time, but you never know.
DNA in the soil. You're right. DNA in the soil. Yeah, she's saying if they can find dinosaurs, why can't they find DNA in the soil? I 100% agree. If my father-in-law is right on of where that body was found, why don't they sample that DNA and say, how can you explain that my DNA, which would be my mother's, is in the ground there, unless there was a body there? I think there's ways. And so we are begging for, followers and viewers to talk to their scientist and biologist friends to say, look, there's this case where I know I sound crazy, but I'm not. You have to just look at the case and look at the teeth. I promise I'm not grasping at straws. I promise that my mom is just leading me to say, you've hated me all your life, and I'm trying to show you everything I did was to protect you, and I'm going to bring her home.
Yeah, I think the first biggest thing is the teeth. I mean, that's like probably where you're going to have like the modern day, at least as of right now, the best chance. And I think forensic odontologists shouldn't be super difficult to find, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how common they are in the world, but I know I see them all the time on these true crime shows, like forensic odontologists identify this and this and this, and they identify, bite marks on people, which, like, they exist, they're out there. So
they are. And we actually do have I have an Idaho forensic odontologist who works to identify the Mount St. Helens victims. So he dealt with burn victims back in the 80s, right? And he was like, those are very hard to identify because you have a burn and then you have an x-ray and you're trying to compare charred remains. He said, these are very easy to see. This is your mom. Yeah. Okay, so we have one, but we have one saying yes, and then Oregon's forensic odontologist saying, No, there's not enough. You can't. So I have 1-to-1. So I'm like, if I could have 10 forensic odontologists say, those are the same teeth, Oregon, come on, there's no way that you can wait your one forensic odontologist who gets paid by the state of Oregon, who cremated and lost the body, to say it's not her.
Right. Because all they're seeing is lawsuits. That's all they're seeing.
100%.
So they're just telling that person to say what they want them to say, basically, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. But why you and I were meeting, Mikey, was that what I wanted to share is that you put out the story and I was all upset because I said the stuff that's out there is not correct. And so I did want to make sure that the viewers know that you used information off of reputable sites, the Charlie Project, NamUs, the Doe Project. And if you guys are sleuthing and you think that it can't be that Doe because it says on NamUs that person was ruled out, you can look right now and see that my mom is a rule out on the Family Creek Jane Doe. But I also want you to look at other facts. It says that my mother disappeared on September 2nd on almost all sites. It says September 2nd was the last time that's not correct. I have the police reports. It's clearly shown. There is a headstone in memory of my mother in August 31st. So the date she disappeared is wrong. There's also
the Charlie Project even right now says September 2nd, 1976.
And that is false. And I think I sent that to you and I said, Mikey, this is why I wanted to talk to you, that I'm saying other ones even said she wasn't reported for an entire month. So I think the Charlie Project years ago that she wasn't reported for a whole month. And I'm like, that's not correct. I have the police report. She was reported missing on September 2nd, last seen the wee hours of August 31st. The other incorrect information is NamUs has it listed that my mother has no wisdom teeth. I thought I was going to have my x-ray sitting here, but I don't. But I have my mom's x-ray. She has all 4 wisdom teeth. NamUs has that she has none. So I'm like, NamUs, can you tell me why you have that my mom has no wisdom teeth when the only x-ray from 1975 shows that she has all 4? And NamUs says, we don't have an x-ray on file.
So they're just, what, guessing?
So what? Yeah, you just have random records in there that say she has no wisdom teeth? Where did you get that from? I don't know. Well, how come you can't fix it? Why has it been 2 years that I've been saying, I have an x-ray, you didn't, and you have incorrect information? So because it says she has no wisdom teeth, and the Finley Creek Jane Doe has 3 wisdom teeth, they're saying it can't be her because of the teeth. And I'm telling you, those reputable sources do not always have correct information.
Right.
They also say that on the Finley Creek Jane Doe, it says that she was deceased sometime between 1970 and 1975. So, it can't be my mom because she died in 1976. That's also incorrect. I have the APB for the Finley Creek Jane Doe. It says she was in the forest for at least 2 to 5 years. That changes that date, that time frame. It changes So I'm like, and then it says she's 6 to 8 months pregnant. So I said, okay, prove it. Show me the measurements to show that this was a 6 to 8 month fetus. And you know what we can find?
Nothing.
It says small bones that were believed to be.
How can they determine that 6 to 8 months as opposed to? So they're just guessing.
They're just guessing. Yeah. Where's the measurement? They would have to do fetal long bone measurements to determine that baby, if they say, it had a 14 centimeter thigh bone, or the cranium, they measured the cranium and it was this many inches. They would have to have some scientific evidence to say the fetus was measured to determine it was 6 to 8 months. Why are there no photos if there was a fetus in the grave? Where are
my next question are there any photos of the fetus?
Not one.
Not one. Okay.
Not one. So does the fetus exist? According to the paper, it does. But also according to her paper, she has a front cap on her tooth. And you can see in the pictures, there is no front cap on her tooth. I'm like, did Mickey Mouse do this investigation? Because it certainly looks like it.
I was going to say, it just sounds like these people were just insanely inept, or what I've noticed a lot, especially in these older cases, like 70s and 80s, is that a lot of the police back then were just like, we need to just make this go away. We need to just like say, this is what happened, boom. And that's why you see so many like wrongful convictions. You see people's convictions being overturned because police were just like, it's just, we'll just do the easy thing, and we don't want to investigate anything.
They do, and they often did it if it was like a sex worker or
Yes.
a homeless person that it's not, and it's kind of looks like that's what they thought with this case. She's not a local. Union County is like a county of 1,200 people. They're like, she's not ours. Why the hell do we care about her? We don't want this murder on our docket. And it's also very interesting that the district attorney who signed off on closing the case was running for district judge. So he wanted his county to look clean and squeaky clean. And he probably got rid of a bunch of cases. Closed. Look at what a good DA I am.
Yeah.
Look at
You
what
could probably also look into that too, like to see if there is that kind of history, to see if there's any kind of corruption or cover up here, because it does kind of sound like it. Like they were just trying to make these things go away. The hell with the families and all that, just make it go away.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly what it felt like.
You know, it's 1970, whatever. Well, you know, science wasn't there and all that. So
Nobody's going to notice. And nobody noticed until there was a little true crime sleuther by the name of Mel Jetterberg who lives in Union County. And she had been watching things on the Doe Network, reading true crime books. And she was like, just curious to see if there was any Eastern Oregon Doe cases. And here she pulls up in her little tiny county of 1,200 and finds this Finley, or it's not Finley Creek. She was just a Doe case. She gets the information and they actually give her the entire case file because it's a closed case. So they send her all 44 pages of the homicide report, 44 pages.
44 pages, wow.
And that's including the autopsy. And she gets this and she's mind blown that this young woman was murdered, buried in their forest. And the Union County just basically said, we don't know who she is. Case closed. So she took it upon herself to bring this to a forensic anthropologist, which was Redgrave Research. And she said, can you take these photos and create a face? Can we get this woman a name? Where was she found? And she was found at the crossing of Dry Creek and Finley Creek. And they determined with their team that Finley Creek Jane Doe was a good name for her. Gave her the moniker Finley Creek so she had a name, gave her the face. And it's because of their work that they did as volunteer sleuthers. They got farther than Oregon got in 45 years. So you guys have a huge impact. You could have a huge impact. Yes.
Yeah, no, I would say that nowadays, especially with places like TikTok, YouTube, you have a lot more of these armchair detectives out there. And sometimes they're actually smarter than the ones that are the ones actually investigating. Yes.
The detectives on the case.
And I think it's because, like, armchair detectives, they care more that it's not, they don't have anything on the line, right? They don't have, like, a job on the line. They're not, they don't have, like, the pressure on them. And so I think a lot of people who aren't detectives, like the armchair ones, tend to be more accurate at times because they're not biased towards anything.
Yeah. We have a few minutes. I was just wondering if you want to run through your followers and see if there was any questions that we could answer, just because I see all them coming up and I'm like, I feel so bad. I'm so good about answering every comment that people put on my page. I take the time to say, thank you. I appreciate your support. If you have questions, but if somebody had said something,
what does destroying evidence mean? Did they burn it or throw it away? So what, like,
well,
so obviously they cremated the body, but
yeah,
like,
they cremated her, correct. And then they said, destroy all evidence, cremate the remains. And as far as what they did with the evidence, there's no documentation. That's why I was saying it doesn't show in the state crime lab. These pants and blouse were removed from the crime lab for destruction. It doesn't say that. It doesn't even say they went in. So they initially tried telling me, we never got the evidence. That's what they first tried telling me. We never had that evidence because there's no record of it. And when I produced the report from Idaho saying, bullshit, here's a 4-page report written by the Idaho detective showing he clearly met this detective who brought him in the crime lab at 1 a.m. And what I'm wondering, again, this is just theory, did he pull it out, sit it on a desk, they looked at it and they thought for sure, oh yes, 100% this is Patty. And because days passed and she didn't get identified, were they like, crap, what case did this go to? Oh, whose clothes was this? It gets pushed off to the side. A week passes, 2 weeks pass. Did it just get misplaced and never get cataloged into evidence? Because
so there is like this tiny chance that those items may actually still be there somewhere.
Yes.
But just completely lost in a great big pile of stuff.
Red pants and a white blouse that would be drenched in my mother's DNA. How did they just walk out of a crime lab? How can they just disappear? That doesn't make sense. So I'm not losing hope. Even though they sit there and tell me I don't have it. Well, you also told me it's not my mother, and I know you're full of crap because it is my mother.
Were the clothes physically on the skeletal remains, or were they like next to? So they took the clothing off of the remains.
Yeah, you can see in the crime scene photos, you can see her red pants, and on my site, I actually have pictures of my mom in these red polyester pants. It's the same pants. Right. These same, and come on, to tell me, let's say that it was a red skirt and a white sweater, okay? Let's say it was that. It's not. It is red slacks and a white sleeveless blouse, and that is exactly what my grandma says when she picked up the girls. That's what she was wearing, these red pants and a white sleeveless blouse. That's what grandma explained.
And I know the 70s were wild and clothing was crazy, but that's still like not a common, you're not going to see that on every single body you find. Yeah, that's still a rare combination.
Every blonde body found within that time. It's like, come on. Within 2 years, and the body happened to have been decayed between 2 and 5 years. I mean, it's just, there's too many. Yes, you're not confused about it being Patty's voice. That is my mom. Patty, it's Patty's voice because I'm being Patty's voice. Yeah. Somebody's asking about my account. We want a group of people to be my mother's voice because her voice was taken from her due to domestic violence. So Patty's voice represents all women who were silenced through domestic violence.
Was that a common thing between your parents that you're aware of? I know you were very young, but was domestic violence big with them?
Yeah, I do know that. It's interesting that I don't remember it being like, wow, I've never seen my mom hit my dad, or my dad. It was kind of like, oh God, it's really bad this time and it's really scary, but it wasn't a first time. And I discovered through interviewing family and her hairdresser. So she went to a hairdresser weekly. My mom stayed up on her looks and was very diligent about having her hair done. And the hairdresser had seen chunks of hair ripped out, and they had noted that she had previously had choke marks around her neck. So she was being abused, but in the 70s, it was more of a thing of like, keep your woman in line. And that's something that happens often behind closed doors, and people don't talk about it, even though everyone knows it's happening.
Right. That's just so like, I don't know. It's just so frustrating and sad to hear. So do you, as of now, still have that visual recollection of that night?
That image of what happened played in my mind like a bad dream. That one and another one that I had where whenever I would see police lights, I would feel like they were going to come and take my dad away again. And family told me that you were never there when my dad was arrested. You were never there when dad was arrested. I can see it so clearly because I'm literally laying on the back of the station wagon looking up, and I see the police lights, and it happened. And I really remember that. And it was odd growing up that I'm like, they tell me I didn't see that, and they tell me that I didn't see the fight, right? But it played over and over in my mind. I could see it over, and I'm like, I hate that. Why do I always think about that? I found out through my investigation that the family that raised me was unaware of the fact that my dad got pulled over for a DUI, and guess who's in the back of the car? Me and my sister. Me and my sister were in the back of the car, and it says he was pulled over for a DUI, and this was only a couple weeks after mom disappeared. So the family that raised me was not aware that that really did happen, and they kept telling me, you weren't with him when he was arrested. That didn't happen, honey. That didn't happen. It was a bad dream. So you just think, why do I have such terrible dreams? And why do they feel so real?
Were you and your sister put into foster care, or were you adopted by like family?
We initially went to go stay with her sister, and we stayed with her sister all the way through December up until I started ratting my dad out. And then he pulled us out of that house and he put us with his sister, who we didn't know. We had never really even spent time with them. I knew my mother's sister because we were there every single day. That was a normal thing. And I just thought, sweet, I'm at my aunt's house and I love being there. So I was in a very safe place. Then he moves us to his sister's house, and she has 5 of her own children. And at that point had had 3 adopted children. So this gave her 8 children.
Wow.
I think my numbers may be off. I feel like she has more than that. A household of a lot of kids. So I was raised by my biological aunt, and then she legally adopted us. My sister is 2 years older. She adopted us when Dad died. She legally adopted us, and I changed my first and last name. I am no longer the given name that they gave me because I wanted nothing to do with being Patricia or Ralph Otto's kid. I completely changed everything. I am not that little orphan. I am not that kid that saw that. I'm me. I'm someone new.
Right. And now here you are trying to help your mom, and that's amazing.
Thank you.
Someone asked, have you ever tried thinking about hypnotherapy?
That is actually a very good idea. My sister did hypnotherapy and she was traumatized and she told me never to do it.
Oh.
And I actually have the tape of her hypnotherapy and I need to listen to it and I know I can do it. But again, I already know what happened, and me going through it and reliving it again and saying what I'm seeing, what really happened, it's not going to help me identify her because
she did it about with regards to this case.
The night. Yeah, she did it about because we were both there. She's there too. What we think happened is she was standing behind me. We think Natalie was standing behind me. And because she's deceased now, I can't talk to her about it, right? She's not here. But I think she was standing right behind me and she saw the same thing I did. My dad later says in several interviews, he says, I can't believe the girls haven't ratted me out. You know, I can't believe the girls haven't. And I'm like, I'm over here trying to rat my dad out and I'm too little. I'm not a legit witness. I'm too young.
Yeah, you don't understand what it is maybe that you even saw.
No,
because you're 3.
He knew, and my sister always supported my father and didn't want my father to go away. So my sister was adamant that that never happened. And
someone just said no one listens to children, and that's still very much true.
No, they would not listen to me, especially since Natalie and our stories conflicted. Natalie said Dad would never hurt Mom, and I'm over here saying Dad drug her out by her neck. So it's like we have 2 different stories.
And, you know, children tend to be more honest about what they see because they don't understand or know. They're just saying what they physically saw.
Yeah.
And that was true then, and it's still true now.
And why would I make up something like that? If I'm going to make something up, why wouldn't I make up something magical? You know, my mom flew to the chimney and put presents in there. No, I magically make up that I see a physical altercation and someone getting strangled.
It's not something a 3-year-old child comes up with.
No, that's just absurd. Are there any other questions in the chat, whatever, that we can answer for you, Mike? My sister didn't have a car accident. My sister died in a carbon monoxide poisoning accident, and it took the lives of 4 people. Her, my only nephew, my brother-in-law, and another 12-year-old child. Oh. And that was in 2006.
Jesus.
And I thought I would never get over that. She was my mother, my father, my best friend. She was my world. And today's her birthday.
Well, happy birthday. You've been through a lot, but you know what? You are a hell of a person, and you're very strong. And I think it's very commendable that you are still, even with all of the obstacles in the way, you are still fighting like hell to get justice for your mom, and that's pretty freaking commendable. That's amazing.
Thank you. And thank you guys all so much for being here. If you have suggestions, if you think you have an idea of something we can do for the case, or you have a PI who you think could give information to help us, Patty's Voice, I'm on every outlet that you can possibly be on. I may be slow to respond because I do work full-time and I have a family and I'm going to school full-time, but I do get back to you eventually.
Yeah, so please go follow Patty's Voice if you haven't done so already. That way you can watch her videos. That way her videos get more traction. And then you can also comment in her videos, like recommendations or, you know, whatever the case may be. If you have any people you can recommend or whatever. So yeah, definitely do that.
Appreciate your time and appreciate you giving me a chance to clarify my mom's story. A little bit different than what's out there. And now viewers know that those reputable sites may not always have the right information. So don't give up.
you've actually helped me a lot because because of, you, I was using Charlie Project for another case, and then I actually noticed a discrepancy in dates between what they said and what an actual family member said on Facebook. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to use what the family member said because
It's so hard.
Yeah. And it was like a 5-year gap. It wasn't even like a couple of days. It was a 5-year difference between.
That's big.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah,
holy
that's
Jesus.
Yeah, that's big. You guys are awesome, and thank you all so much for joining us. And I like I said, I'll get back to you. Do I see this chat in my thing, or does it just go away?
I think it goes away.
Oh, because I didn't get a chance to answer all these people, so I feel really bad. I wasn't keeping up. I need a moderator because I can't talk and type at the same time.
I'm gonna post this to once I can download this, I'm gonna post it to my YouTube.
Oh, that works. Then I can answer them. Because if people have questions, I want to be able to respond to them because it just helps them. If they get something answered, they could get another question that brings us to a great answer. So I appreciate all you, and thank you so much for your time, Mike, and giving me a chance to share.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.